let's get back into hard news. I hate it. We're having such a good time, and now we're going to fight. And now I'm going to make you fight again, but it's okay. But I got to talk about the muzzle laws. There's these laws that are been introduced in a number of states to not talk about critical race theory. Now, critical race theory, I must say, to begin with, I hadn't heard the term probably a year ago. Now I hear it every day. I think Americans are just starting to hear it. And I think no one knows exactly what it is. They know it has something to do with race, and it's some kind of a theory. Right? How would you describe it? And then we'll ask, how would you describe it? What is critical race theory?
I will admit that I read a lot of critical race theory in law school. So, you know, the work of Derek Bell or Gene Stefanczyk
this is
and
the
Richard
stuff
Delgado.
No one knows but you and 6 other people.
Right. So,
but what matters is what is it practically? It's being taught in schools or some form of.
Yes, there's a certain sort of crystallized version of it that is a lot less complex than what critical race theory actually is. But critical race theory essentially argues that racism is baked into all the systems of American society and that any sort of neutral system is, in fact, a guise for racial power. And so the argument is made by Derek Bell, for example, that Brown versus Board of Education, this is an argument he made in 1991, that Brown versus Board of Education was actually a way for the white community to leverage its own power. It wasn't an attempt to end segregation in public schools. Even things that are purportedly good in terms of race, so long as they uphold these broader systems, things like capitalism or things like the meritocracy, these things are actually just guises for power. And so what that boils down to in sort of practical terms is all disparity equals discrimination. If you can see any stat where black people are underperforming white people, this means the system was set up for the benefit of white people and that white people have a duty to tear down these systems in order to alleviate the racism that's implicit in those systems. When it comes to schools, what this tends to boil down to is kids who are white have experienced privilege because the system was built for white people, and we have to change the standards.
Right. Now, okay, well, so Malcolm, you tell me your definition.
Oh, I agree with everything he just said.
Oh, great.
And I appreciate you being honest in defining of what it's like to be black American, right? That is, I mean, we're talking about a system.
That's not fair.
No, I'm just saying I agree with all of those suppositions because they are grounded in truth. Look, and the funny thing is, it's not just African Americans, right? It's also the Scalp Act of 1749, where for $300 modern dollars, you had to cut off the head or the hair of an Indian to prove that you've got them out of the way so they could settle. That's a little bit of American history that people should know about. The Chinese Exclusion Acts of the 1840s. These are things we don't talk about.
First of all, that's not. It's not true that people don't talk about these things. We all did learn about.
You don't want them talked about?
No, that's not true either.
You want to cancel them?
No, Malcolm, I'm sorry, you're lying. That's lying. It is lying. I've personally talked about many of the things that you just mentioned. I defined critical race theory by citing the actual authors of critical race theory, and you seem to be a pretty good beneficiary of the meritocracy because you have merit, Malcolm. So if you're going to criticize the meritocracy as an outgrowth of white supremacy, then you're going to have to tear down the system that you've succeeded in because you have merit, or do not have merit.
You know, when my great-great-grandfather ran away from slavery to join the 111th U.S. Colored Troops and fight against the South, keeping human beings as slaves, he didn't think, you know what? In 150 years, my great-great-grandson's going to have to sit on stage and argue with a guy who thinks all that's bullshit. All right?
All of what is bullshit?
No. I'm just saying,
Malcolm,
there is no controversy. The controversy that's made up is people saying that this is being discussed, this is being taught in schools, and that kids should be kept away from it.
That's not true.
It's not even a real controversy.
Malcolm, the 5th largest school district in America, Clark County, just decided that they were going to lower standards with regard to testing because they wanted to alleviate disparities in outcomes. That is an outgrowth of critical race theory.
Can you draw a straight line to it?
Yes.
Really?
100%. Because when you say that the meritocracy is an outgrowth of white supremacy, and then you suggest that I'm somehow denying that slavery took place or that your great-great-great-grandfather was a hero because I'm saying that I want people tested when they are in school to see if they are good at school, then what you're purporting to push now is just nonsense. And it's just sheer bullshit, Malcolm. It's just bullshit.
No, but I think it's also a leap to say that he thought that was bullshit. Because that's not what it is. I mean, are we talking about 2021? Or are we talking about 1861? Because
the point is, can we talk about 1861 and 2021?
yes, we can. And
You just did.
I don't know who's against talking about history.
Well, I mean, I understand that they want to, in Texas, they're talking about removing references to the Ku Klux Klan. They're talking about removing. Well, I mean, come on.
That's Texas.
How can you watch Forrest Gump without even knowing who Nathan Bedford Forrest is, right? I mean, these are people who are historical figures who did bad things. No one is actually saying we want to go back and erase everything and restart and talk to you about these things. Critical race theory is a subject because the Republican right has made it a subject. No real school organizations are mandating this for kids.
I hope every Democrat in America takes your perspective,
and
they will be shellacked at the polls. Roy Teixeira just wrote a piece, the emerging Democrat majority, Roy Teixeira, he just wrote a piece about what he called the Fox News fallacy, a tendency of people on the left to believe that just because Fox News mentions something, it can't be real. The reality is a lot of this stuff is taught in schools.
You mean like viruses?
Well, okay.
Well,
Can I?
Now I'm just.
I don't know.
Now I'm just confused.
Can I just,
what you're talking
as far
about.
as what people are experiencing in their lives, in their schools.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right. There are states, like from the old Confederacy, I think, who do want to airbrush history. That's not, I think, the majority in this country. No. If you ask me critical race theory, if you say, does that mean teach history unvarnished? I would say yes. Then I'm totally for critical race theory. If you say, does it mean acknowledging that racism persists today? I would say yes, teach that. Should we have remedial means? That's like affirmative action. There's lots of people who are against that. I'm still for that. I still think when you read the statistics, and I have some of them here, blacks earn 40% less, 90% less family wealth, high poverty high schools, 72% blacks to 31% white, live 6 years shorter, half as likely to go to college, 8 times more incarcerated. These are real statistics. The question is, what do we do to address them? These are real statistics. You think we should address them? You think we should address them, right? The question is, what are we doing about it? Because if critical race theory means making children in school fixate on race, I'm not for that. If it's about collective guilt, I didn't do anything to your great-great-great-grandfather. I don't want to be responsible for that. If it's about, a toxicity of just from being born white, if it's about dividing everybody into oppressor and oppressed and oppressor, I'm not for that. So there are things that are being taught and are going around that I'm not for, that if that was critical race theory, I wouldn't be for.
I agree with you, and I don't think that's critical race theory.
But it's being,
I think what's happened here what's happened here is this terminology, sort of like defund the police, has been hijacked and been framed around the left as that they want to do all this, they want to rip down the entire social fabric of America, and they want us to be guilty about everything. I want you to teach history. I had a lot of people in the military. Hold on. I had a lot of people in the military, senior officers who had to make life and death decisions, who were total morons about the cultures and institutions and countries we were going into, and people died because of that.
So I have a question.
I don't need that here.
If we agree that history should be taught, why are you defending critical race theory, which is not history?
Did I not just say a moment ago that I think that term has been hijacked and that's not what we're talking about?
Okay, so let's say critical race theory.
I'm going to go back and repeat that I didn't say that.
Okay. You are literally defending critical race theory by redefining it as just teaching history, which is a cheap semantic trick, and you know it.
Is this what you do on your show? Because it sucks.
Malcolm. Malcolm, I appreciate that, but I will comfort myself tonight by sleeping on my bed made of money.
I'm sure we have an adult. I'm sure we have another adult subject to talk about.
Well, how about that Andrew Cuomo? I tell you,